Welcome back to Bitcoin Season 2. I'm Charlie Spears.
And I'm Colin Harper. I've got a milk mustache.
This is Bitcoin Season 2 Writer's Room, the editorialized, less scripted, off-the-cuff version of Bitcoin Season 2. We are going to hit a few things. It's going to be mostly politically related, so please don't turn off. We're going to kick it off with the Marathon Trump block. Not getting blocked by Trump, but rather blocking Trump himself. We'll explain what that means. And then most importantly, Colin and I are going to rank your strategic Bitcoin reserve bills. They are not all made the same. So
it's a political episode. It's a politically themed episode. We're not going to get that political, but we've got a tier list and we're going to explain some of the proposals on the table.
But without that, Bitcoin Season 2.
I figure that one. Never sell your Bitcoin. And so, as the final part of my plan today, I am announcing that if I am elected, it will be the policy of my administration, United States of America, to keep 100% of all the Bitcoin the U.S. government currently holds or acquires into the future. We'll keep 100%. I hope you do well, please.
And so that was 6 months ago. That was
the shot heard around the world.
10 days after he almost got assassinated.
Yeah.
That kind of shot heard around the world.
That's a really good point. And anyone who was at the conference, that was a Trump's keynote from Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville. Anyone who was at the conference know that security was crazy. A developer actually slipped through the metal detectors, and that delayed his speech by about like an hour almost, I think. But in that speech, Trump basically promised to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve by simply not selling the roughly 200,000 coins that the U.S. government holds. This kicked off a discussion that will be at the center of our stream today of the whole strategic Bitcoin reserve concept, both on the federal level and now on the state level, where a bunch of bills have been cropping up left and right. This conversation has been accelerating. But before, sorry, go ahead, Charlie.
Well, I mean, speaking of accelerating, like, I'm trying to make some play on like accelerating transactions, because this gets into mempool.space, where this morning, the morning of Friday, the 17th here, we saw Marathon Pool mine a very curious looking block. I think this is one of the more season 2 blocks you can ever imagine. I will show it up here. This is mempool.space. It's everyone's favorite block explorer for Bitcoin. And you can see here Marathon, Marapool, behind a very curious looking block. This is unmistakably Donald J. Trump's head.
The once and future president. And file this under the ass kissing has already begun to an absurd degree. And this is like the domino meme, right? Where like the dude has the tiny domino.
Yeah.
And it's like Casey Rodomore issue is the ordinals protocol. And now Mara is mining a block with Trump's face.
It's a Casey connects
the template design.
Casey connects his MetaMask for the first time and gets rugged for all of his ETH. to Trump's face is now enshrined in the most popular block explorer. So for the average person who doesn't know what this is, like Colin and I, for the listeners, are looking at mempool.space, and mempool.space visualizes, according to their own kind of rubric, like, what does a block look like? So they'll show the large transaction as bigger blocks, and they'll show the smaller ones as bigger blocks, and they'll color them differently based on what they do. And so recently, in this past year, post-ordinals, some very clever people, namely Portland Hodl, with Marathon, have figured out how to game the actual like construction of their own blocks they produce, and to make it actually show up on mempool.space as an image. So they kind of did the first version of this with the Marathon block, which we talked about. I talked about with Portland on our previous episode of Bitcoin Season 2. And today we saw a very, very iconic Donald J. Trump stern stare pop up
What's the block number for this one? I think
this one is block number 879613.
Okay, I don't understand. Okay, now it's doing this for me too. I clicked on Mara's tweet, and can I share my screen really quickly?
Yeah,
because
sure.
It shows you a different. It shows you.
Oh, sorry. I have a certain filtering on. It's
the that's why.
I have to figure. I forget what do I click
here.
Basically, yeah.
I'll share mine because I have it. So this is the full picture without the blue lines at the bottom. It's got 47 on his lapel for the 47th president of the United States. I don't think that you could, enshrine Trump's presidency, his second presidency, better than with this ultimate shitpost for the ultimate political shitposter. This is something that is pretty incredible. Yes, it is obnoxious. Yes, it is somewhat nauseating in how obsequious it is. There's like unction just seeping from the block template, but pretty amazing that this is how Mara is spending its time. Look, the block health is 0% because none of these transactions are any of the transactions that Mimple expected to go into this block.
And the thing is, like, a lot of people would be like, oh man, they could have processed all these transactions instead of doing all this like shitcoinery stuff. And I'd be like, yeah, it's a little shitcoinery, but also like this cost, if you took the transactions they would have included and the difference that they would have made normally processing transactions versus their own, it would have been roughly $1,500. A block is over $250,000 per block. And so this is basically an advertising cost of about $1,500, and it is being talked about everywhere on social media. Maybe Trump himself sees it and sees Marathon as a notable public company. And on
maybe Fred Thiel will get a cabinet seat because of this.
Maybe Fred Thiel will get a cabinet seat.
My question with this is, like, certainly they had to submit these transactions themselves, right? To like actually make sure that they had the right structure.
Yeah, I actually talked with Portland Hodl on a previous episode of Bitcoin Season 2 exactly how this is constructed. So basically, they'll test this out on testnet or their own signet, but because Mempool.space's code is open source, they can know how the transactions will show up. But they have to guarantee that other transactions don't accidentally get in. So they have to be kind of like, they have to put some bumpers around it. And you can visualize this. You have to arrange the transactions in a specific order, and you have to make sure you don't accidentally broadcast them so somebody else doesn't mind them. So then the other last kind of backflip that Portland did on this block that was constructed is if you look in the op returns for the listener are unspendable outputs. You can include messages, arbitrary data in these op returns. And here you have the words Marathon Digital Holdings welcomes Donald J. Trump as the 47th president of the United States of America. And then we have the Bill of Rights in all the op returns.
Wow, really?
This block. We're talking hundreds of transactions, hundreds of discrete lines, all in this block. So shout out to the technicians behind this. It is both a beautiful shitpost and a beautiful demonstration of technical block template construction. You just want the best block templates being made in the USA, and this one sure was by pretty much every account that you can imagine.
Okay, so, the Trump shitposting art notwithstanding, putting the Constitution in the block goes pretty hard.
It goes pretty fucking hard.
That goes pretty hard. This was a kind of monumental effort. And one of the cooler things to see from Marapool, we like to see this rather than sanctioning or filtering out OFAC sanctioned transactions. But
yeah, if you remember, this is Marathon, the one that a few years ago was bonked on the noggin for being a little too eager to do OFAC sanctioning, which is ironic because today, as you may read in the most recent Blockspace newsletter, or previous ones, there is suspicion of F2 pool OFAC sanctioning addresses. That will probably be another episode for Bitcoin Season 2 Writers Room. But before, enough of that.
Yeah,
it's time to get into why the people are watching. The people want tier lists, Colin.
The people do want tier lists, and they want to know what's up with these strategic Bitcoin reserve proposals that everyone's talking about? Is this safe? Is this something I need to talk to my kids about? Do I need to wear protection when fingering through these files online? This is what the people need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So for today's show, we're going to break down I believe it's 8 proposals at this point across 7 states, because Texas has 2, everything's bigger in Texas, that are proffering some kind of Bitcoin strategic reserve strategy. There are varying levels of sophistication to all these proposals. One of them from North Dakota isn't even a bill yet, and they all have different allocation weights that they would allow. So we wanted to have this episode to break them down, give people an idea of what exactly is being promised, and also give our gut reactions on which ones might be better and which ones actually have a chance of potentially passing.
Yeah, because it's not like just there's one boilerplate like language document floating around being copied. There are some that mirror others, and then like it's also important to add a little context to like what does this actually look like on the ground in this particular state legislature. So that's important. Colin and I did the digging. Disclosure: I live in Oklahoma. I'm on the board of the Oklahoma Bitcoin Association. We've been involved in bringing forward the Oklahoma legislation ourselves, so I am biased, and we did rank it very high. So any other context before we pull up the chart?
No, I don't think so. Let's go ahead and rip it. I guess the last context I say, go to blockspace.media for the full article where we go into detail and provide our rankings as well, but you can read the article there if you're more of a visual person rather than auditory. But that's it. Let's dive into it. That's it.
Okay, so I have up on my screen for the listener, I put one like the classic tier list, S, A, B, C, D, E, F up on the screen, and I've got the states down below. And so we're going to take the 7 states and give them an arbitrary rank. So, but the first one, I did just jump out ahead and say, the first one we're going to do Oklahoma. So it's the second most recent. Another Wyoming just dropped their bill this morning. But Oklahoma did earlier this week. And Representative Cody Maynard introduced House Bill 1203 with the help of the Oklahoma Bitcoin Association, allows the state treasury to invest in Bitcoin and digital assets. But the catch is the market cap of the asset that the state can invest in cannot be below $500 billion. So that's an average of a $500 billion market cap. As average over the previous year. So it's neutral about crypto assets. Doesn't matter which, doesn't provide any language for like which cryptocurrency you can invest in. It just has to be over 500 billion in market cap. So the thing is, there's only one crypto asset with that over that market cap, which is Bitcoin. So this is a bit of a clever way to be neutral and to also be very explicitly like, well, it's just Bitcoin for now. And then the other kind of language is that the bill adds like guidelines and definitions to say for like, here's compliance, here's what a stable coin can and can't do if it's going to be in the treasury. And stable coins, by the way, they can only be a maximum of 10% of the overall strategic reserve.
And it's also just any asset, right? It's capped at 10%. I meant to go amend it, but I went and looked through the bill this morning, and it's any asset.
Okay,
which is crazy high compared to some of these other ones. I think that's the thing that stands out the most for the Oklahoma bill. The provision of 500 billion is a big one too, just for being a little more conservative, saying we're not just going to put any shitcoin in there. But also 10% allocation of state funds is a lot. That's like a lot for a state.
That's more than we say. That's more than like anyone but the most hardcore Bitcoiners often say for like people getting into Bitcoin for the first time. So
because they don't want people to egg their house when Bitcoin draws down 70% after a bull market. If you only have like 5% of your assets in it, it doesn't matter as much. If you tell your best friend to YOLO like half of their life savings into it, and then their life savings depreciate at a rate of 70% after a bull market, they might not talk to you.
Can you imagine the state of Oklahoma absolutely top ticking the next bull cycle, bro? I would have to go into hiding.
That's what's kind of funny about these, though, is these are coming at a time when we're kind of mid-cycle at this point. So it's like we could top out at any point in 2025. I
mean, we're going to talk about the strategic, the national at the end, but I'm biased, so I think this is one of the better bills. Colin, you let me rate it an S tier. Do you have any comments before?
I would just say I don't know if I let you do that in as much as like I actually do agree when you compare it to the other proposals. The reason why I like it having an S tier is because the 10% allocation is incredibly aggressive and gives them room. It's also very clear about how this can be acquired and what funds from the state can be used. Others are much vaguer about much more vague about where the funds are coming from. And also the $500 billion provision is one that I had not seen except in the New Hampshire bill as well.
Yeah, so I think it's just inspired from the New Hampshire bill, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's just really well defined. And so and I will say, I think it's good that it also leaves it open to other digital assets should the state decide to do that.
The reality is, like, I'm a pretty hardcore Bitcoiner, but like, in order to like talk about these things and to put legislation together, you got to be crypto neutral. You got to be digital asset neutral. And like, we're all deceiving ourselves if we think that we can like demand and shackle everyone to just this Bitcoin thing, because like the purpose of laws is to try to be as neutral as possible. Well,
yep.
Okay. The next one we have is the most recent one as of this morning, which is the Wyoming Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Bill, which would authorize the investment of state funds and permanent funds into Bitcoin. I'll let you take this call.
Yeah, this one's got some interesting provisions, and this one gets we'll talk about the rank after I'm done. Yeah. So the bill basically allows the treasurer to take up to 3% of the state's general fund, permanent land fund, and mineral trust fund to buy Bitcoin. And if it appreciates above that 3% threshold at any point, they don't have to rebalance the portfolio, which I thought was a really interesting provision, because it's not really clear with some of these other ones, but it almost seems like they say it can never go above this threshold. So like, let's say maybe in Oklahoma's case, they buy like 7% allocation and then Bitcoin rips and it goes above 10% of the state's funds, then they would have to theoretically rebalance the portfolio and sell some of that Bitcoin, divest the reserves so that they don't, graduate above that level. But this one says that if it appreciates, like just let it ride. You just can't purchase more on top of that after it appreciates, which is interesting because there's almost, if you want to go hyper bull, $100 trillion USD stock to flow bulltardia mode for a second. Like there's almost a race against the clock with this, where you would want, if you're Wyoming, to purchase as much as possible over the next few years up to that 3% cap, because there's probably going to come a time, if Bitcoin succeeds in the way that we all think and hope it will, where you're not going to be able to add to it, because it's just going to appreciate so quickly that it's going to probably outperform all the other funds. I mean, now, obviously, these funds can grow themselves as well, but you might, the game theory there is, do they actually grow in tandem with or faster than the Bitcoin reserve? And I think some people would say they probably won't.
Yeah.
So
the bill also includes good language about qualified custodians and security solutions and ETF products, stuff like
this
that.
Is the interesting one. I think it's the only one that I saw, and I could be wrong, I need to double check this, but they actually stipulated that it can be an ETF as well. So like hardcore Bitcoiners might not like that, but I think this is a very practical. I think for the DMV sucks, and sometimes the post runs 2 weeks late. Do you really want government holding physical coins? If it's the right people, yes. But, I think for some of these suits, it would be much better for them to just go to VanEck or Bitwise or Fidelity and just buy shares of their ETF.
Yeah,
right?
but bro, the black pill thing is like, I mean, if you buy it through BlackRock's ETF, it's just the same qualified custodian, which is Coinbase, as you would also buy.
That's actually a really fair point.
It's all the same thing.
I'm just imagining though a scenario where like one of these bills, if passed into law, actually has a provision to where the government can set up its own custody, and like there's like some like 20-year-old intern who has the multi-sig keys just locked in their drawer in the state capitol.
She's got the Bitcoin. She's got a 2 or 3 multi-signature wallet with Unchained down in. Yeah, I can imagine that.
James, you're one of them Zoomers, right? You like those crypto coins. You should be the one to be in charge of the custody.
And meanwhile, he's got just like his MetaMask newly integrated with Bitcoin.
And he's just like balls deep in pudgy penguins, and there's like nothing else.
So a couple other thoughts. The Wyoming bill is a little heavy on like, I would say some like overly Bitcoin language, like includes like reference to the white paper, which I think is a little bit superfluous, but regardless, we get it. We did get a quote from the Representative Wasserberger with a very based quote, which is, Wyoming is the state that is always known to be the first or last to do anything. If Wyoming is the second to pass, this is going to feel like the last. The great state of Wyoming is one of the only part-time state legislators. So if we are able to move things here more quickly, it's essential Wyoming passes this bill, because if the rest of the country continues to do so, Wyoming will be able to benefit from the rest of this country's mass adoption. He says, if we let this opportunity pass it by, it will forever be known as the biggest mistake Wyoming made. Like, man is on the ball.
Giga bullish. And honestly, I think so this one gets, let's go to the tier list. This one gets an A. Dare I say,
I have to find which one Wyoming is.
It'll be here.
Horse, right? It's the square with the horse.
Yeah. Well, it's a buffalo. It should be a buffalo.
Yeah.
Where the hell is it? Is it up there to the right? No, that's North Dakota.
What if this map did? What if this didn't? Oh, is this one?
Yeah, that's Wyoming.
Okay, this gets an A tier.
Dare I say it almost deserves to be S. The only reason and I'll explain why. The only reason I gave it A is because the 3% is a little, I mean, it's better than some of the other ones, but it's much lower than that 10% from Oklahoma. But the provision where you don't have to rebalance the portfolio, I think makes it interesting and makes it stand out. The reason I say it almost deserves to be S, or like maybe S, /A, is because I think that this one probably has a pretty high chance of being passed, just because Cynthia Lummis, granted, she's not in the Wyoming Senate, but she has been one of the most vocal Bitcoin proponents on the federal stage as a senator from Wyoming. Yeah. And also, Wyoming is like one of the most libertarian states in the union. Like, quite frankly, no offense to New Hampshire, like they don't have anything on the plains and mountains of Wyoming. Like some of the most like, get the fuck away from me, don't tread on me people live in this state.
Yeah, very based people up in Wyoming. So we'll see. Wyoming's been at the forefront of like crypto legislature pretty much since the beginning. I think Kraken even relocated there because of it.
Wow. So, and there are a bunch of other things like, Caitlin Long is establishing that fully, that basically that Bitcoin bank that is like fully backed by crypto assets. So
okay,
there's a lot going on in Wyoming. It's a state that has been very friendly to Bitcoin and digital assets. So But so moving on,
back to New Hampshire.
Die hard state. I'm just kidding. People in New Hampshire, you're fine. Your state's fine.
Live free. We have a typo here. Live free of die, which is also pretty based. It's a pretty based term. That's a Brian, the guy who wants to live forever joke right there.
Oh, Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson joke. Live free of die. Okay, so this bill introduced by Representative Keith Ammon, I hope I pronounced that right, goes beyond just digital assets and includes precious metals like silver, gold, and platinum. Notably, the bill doesn't actually mention Bitcoin and just uses the broad term digital assets. This is to be expected for a lot of these. Similar to Oklahoma, I think it's more like Oklahoma, similar to New Hampshire, requires digital assets to be in the proposed reserve to have a market cap of at least 500. I said million, but I think I meant billion. Dang, we have two typos to fix here.
That's on me, man.
Okay,
that's on me.
This is the writer's room, baby. This is the copywriter's room.
I'm making seriously, I'm making edits in real time.
And so that again excludes all crypto assets except for Bitcoin currently. So if any other crypto asset were to have a rolling 500 billion market cap average of the previous year, the state of New Hampshire could buy it and add it to the treasury. It includes language and guidelines for staking, stablecoin compliance, custody, and then another similar to Oklahoma, investing over prevents New Hampshire from investing over 10% of the total public funds. Public funds currently are around 360 billion, so that would limit the total, just for reference, to about $3.6 billion, which would cap. Wait. The state's public funds are about 3.6 billion, which would cap the total investable amount to 360 million. Dang, we are having trouble with the numbers today, Colin.
I mean, we're writers, Charlie. We're
writers. I'm a writer, not a mathematician.
There's a reason that we didn't go into more lucrative fields like coding or architecture.
Yeah, I'm speed running so I can be a Chat GPT prompt guy. That's really all we're headed toward.
So, all that being said, this one is almost a mirror image of Oklahoma's bill, or rather, to your point, Oklahoma is almost a mirror image of this one.
Yeah,
and because of that,
we had similar help. Honestly, frankly, similar kind of people looking and recommending both.
Yeah, for sure. And so, as a result, this one gets an S tier. It's only fair because Oklahoma also got an S tier, and for me, at least, that S tier is because of the significant allocation, like the 10%, which probably, if it got passed, I would find it very hard to believe that it would ever go that high. But it's nice to have the ceiling higher than not, right?
Yep. So we have Oklahoma S tier, New Hampshire S tier, Wyoming A tier, maybe S tier. Off to a pretty good start.
We'll keep it an A tier just so that we don't have a bunch of. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, we need something at A tier. So now we get into the fun, more nuanced stuff. We have Texas, which is kind of funny because Texas is like the Bitcoin state. It's the mining state.
And has like two of the lamest proposals, honestly.
Yeah. Proposals.
So Texas, this is really funny because there are two in Texas. The first one was proposed by a House representative, by Representative Giovanni Capriglione, which I thought all the Italians were on the East Coast, but apparently not. And then the second one was proposed by Texas Senator Charles Schwartner. See, there we go. Nice Germanic person, like that's you expect to see that more in the South. I guess maybe the Midwest. This is not a demographic podcast. Apologies, guys. Anyway, so there are two bills that have been proposed in Texas, one in the House, one in the Senate. We're going to do the Senate one first because it's the more interesting of the two. Balloons coming up. I always do peace signs, and it's always celebrating my birthday for some reason on the stream. So the Senate bill allows for up to 1% allocation from anything left over from the state's biennial budget. So this one was kind of weird to parse. I didn't quite understand it at first, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. It's basically any supplemental funds that are left over after the budget has been exhausted. And these budgets are set every 2 years, hence biennial. Any up to 1% of that can go into a Bitcoin strategic reserve. So, in my opinion, much less interesting than some of the other proposals, right? Because you have some, even Wyoming's is at least 3%, and it allows at least direct access from state funds, right? Same with New Hampshire and Oklahoma, up to 10% of these various state funds. For Texas, this one is just saying like, yeah, whatever's left over, we'll throw it in, which is maybe a little more prudent, right? Like it's this kind of, it's like putting pennies or quarters into a milk jug, right? It's like your pocket change that you're saving in your little, rainy day fund. But it doesn't seem very impressive compared to the other ones. And also per Charlie's point, this is the state with like roughly 20% of the entire network hash rate, 15-20%, depending on the day. Yeah. Like basically the entire U.S. mining industry,
where the governor himself says we want Texas to be Bitcoin country.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of interesting. Ironically, this is one of the more underwhelming ones, but this is at least better than the House bill, which I'm just going to go out and say it. It probably deserves a lower ranking. It's just so lame. Basically the House bill only allows the government to accept donations in Bitcoin.
Bro.
To which I say, was that not a thing? Like, I guess you have to have some sort of apparatus set up to accept the donations, but like presidential candidates accept donations. Other politicians accept donations in Bitcoin. Like RFK did, Trump did. I think Kamala's team at one point did too. Like, is this just not something that they can do? Like, I just find this kind of strange. But the one provision that makes it somewhat interesting is the comptroller of the currency has to hold those coins for at least 5 years before they liquidate them, transfer them into another crypto asset, or appropriate them. I don't really know what that means. But so I don't know, kind of lame. Like donations.
Yeah, like
really?
imagine who is going to donate? A government.
Yeah, like the government steals your money already. You want to give them more of your money? I mean, I get it. Texas has no state income tax.
Yeah.
But it has one of the highest property taxes. So, and that's a local thing. So
they don't have income tax. Yeah.
Anyway, it's weird. It's like honestly, it's kind of the most toothless out of all of them. So,
I mean, I'll say that, just caveat, a lot of these proposals are because like other things just aren't feasible, or they're just huge lift, and it's probably like, well, I guess we could make it legal to donate. Okay, here's a bill. So
yeah, and I think maybe this also speaks to, just because the Republican politicians of a state are not going to be hostile towards an industry, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to want to go all in on that industry, right? Yeah. Like, it's still hard for a lot of boomer Republicans to think about a Bitcoin allocation. Like Texas is a gold bug state. Yeah. So there's a lot. I mean, they have a pretty big reserve of gold, I think. And so you have to wonder, it's like, how much do they actually want to put into Bitcoin? And, maybe they're just a little too conservative even for this newfangled internet money. Yeah. So for this one, the Senate bill gets a B because at least it allows 1%. And then can you copy it?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, just put it in C then, because the House bill gets a C. And because it's just really kind of boring. And you're probably wondering, oh, Colin, you're shitting on it. Why doesn't it get lower? Well, dear listener, you will find out soon. Because
it can get worse.
It can get worse than that. For instance, a bill sponsor not getting reelected, which happened.
Yeah. Okay. This is one that I think a lot of people didn't have on their bingo card. Maybe people saw it, but here we have Pennsylvania, which is like it's quite blue balling, if you will. So here we have the Pennsylvania Strategic Reserve Bill, and we'll just. So a bill in these states has to have an elected official, a legislator, sponsor the bill. This is a convention, I think, in most states. I think it might be everywhere. But like someone has to bring the bill forwards. So you got to have someone who's like, this is my bill. I'm going to push it. Sometimes it could be one person. Sometimes it could be a bunch. But in this case, this is not the only case, the sponsor of the bill who put the bill forward was not reelected, so they're not even around, and there's not like a person advocating for the bill. It's hilarious. It's kind of hilarious and ironic. So
it's really sad, and because this one would have been probably up higher. It allows for a 10% allocation from the state general fund, the state rainy day fund, and the state investment fund. But Mike Cable. Sorry, whatever your name is, Mike. Apologies. You're probably not listening. But he did not win re-election last year. So this is almost certainly dead in the water. That's not a given, but like if a sponsor of a bill doesn't come back and there's no one to kind of jockey for it, then there's not going to be much confidence in it to begin with, and no one's going to really.
Because I think like in most of these places, someone has to like present the bill or something.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, so the thing is like,
someone's going to have to pick up the torch.
Yeah. So somebody has to pick up a sponsor. Like if this is like allowed or whatever, and another sponsor comes along in Pennsylvania says, this is my bill now, yoink. This bill immediately goes up to like A or maybe S.
Yeah. So this one gets an F. Just because it's really not likely to happen.
It doesn't even show up on the screen with our cutouts, but there you go. Pennsylvania with a really cool flag, by the way, really cool seal.
Dope flag. Yeah.
Dope flag. But we're not ranking flags, we're ranking bills, and it's an F here. Okay, North Dakota.
So this one is not a proper bill yet. And I don't know how North Dakota's legislative process works. Forgive me, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a poli-sci person. But this was a resolution that was submitted by a handful of representatives in the North Dakota House. And it's very vague. It allows the state treasurer and state investment board to invest, quote, selected funds in digital assets and precious metals, end quote. Again, not a proper bill yet. It's going to probably be deliberated on before they present it as a bill, if they ever do. And until it becomes an actual bill to go to a vote, I don't think we're going to have any information on which funds will be eligible to invest in this, what allocation they think is appropriate for this. So I give this one a D because it's at least not dead. It's actually a little baby. It's very nascent, but there's no clear indication that it'll become a bill, and there's really not any good information. I believe that's North Dakota.
This is North Dakota, a cool like eagle looking thing. A light blue flag, a seal, an eagle, or a bird with its arms outstretched in North Dakota.
Yeah, that goes pretty hard.
Yeah. Also cool flag, North Dakota.
This is also just fun looking at all the states with their flags transposed over their geographic boundaries.
Yeah. It is a cool visualization. So that's why you should be watching this. If you're listening to this, make sure you're also subscribed to our YouTube and check out the X stream. So if you're streaming to this, make sure you check out the RSS stream so you can listen to it without having to look at us and our ugly mugs. So North Dakota D. So just to review, we have Oklahoma and New Hampshire at S, Wyoming at A, Texas at C, North Dakota at D, Pennsylvania at F. We got one last one. Ohio.
So also one that's probably going to be dead in the water.
Yeah.
Because its representative, Derek Marin, the sponsor of this bill, Derek Marin, was not reelected. What's strange, though, if I recall correctly, this was introduced in December. Elections were in November. So this guy,
I don't know, how this. Are we missing something here?
What do you mean?
Well, so he's out of office. This is a lame duck strategic reserve bill.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, this is a lame duck strategic reserve proposal. So it's was this I don't understand what the angle is here. He has nothing to gain from this. Maybe he's just a hardcore Bitcoiner. Maybe someone will pick up the torch. But all that being said, the bill is also somewhat vague. It says the treasurer of the state may invest interim money of the state. I'm not really sure what that means. And amounts deposited to the Ohio Bitcoin Reserve Fund in Bitcoin. There's no indication of what percent allocation is allowed. There's not really too much about this bill. And again, Marin did not win re-election. So, I mean, this one's probably almost certainly kaput.
Yeah, also dead in the water. We're giving it an F tier. Surely I know what Ohio looks like.
Scroll down.
This is it.
Yeah, there it is.
So yeah, we're giving it an F. It might be an E because it was, I don't know. We'll just give it an F.
Yeah.
It's it lost its sponsor. That's kind of a meme bill now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Ohio does have a really good blockchain council. Shout out Andrew Burchill and the other people working in Ohio. They've put themselves on the map as kind of up there in the state pantheon with Texas and Wyoming.
Also another state alongside other Rust Belt state, Pennsylvania, that has a very thriving Bitcoin mining industry.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania specifically, and I think parts of Ohio, you have the PJM connection, which is PJM is kind of similar to ERCOT in the sense that it's a pretty open market for electricity. So it's become a hub for Bitcoin mining, and not surprising to see a bill crop up in this state. I'm just waiting for Tennessee to do something. I don't think that this will happen anytime soon, but feels like there's enough going on there with regards to, a bunch of Bitcoin companies being stationed in Nashville, including BTC Inc., and also a burgeoning mining industry there, pretty conservative state. You'd expect to see it. As a listener has said, Florida is due.
Yeah.
Nine. That's true.
Crypto 9, Florida is due.
Yeah. And, I really do think this is going to be somewhat of a domino effect thing. I think that's like kind of an easy prediction to make, but once a couple of states do this, it becomes more socially acceptable, right? Just like with the Bitcoin ETF, right? I'll never forget when that news broke, at the beginning of last year in January, and my father-in-law, who's been incredibly bearish Bitcoin since I've been involved in the industry, said, "Oh, so that's kind of like a seal of approval from institutions." And I was like, "That's exactly what this is."
Yeah, and the thing is, like, and these legislators are realizing very quickly that being pro crypto is an easy mode to name recognition and like cross aisle support.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, more libertarians and more conservatives have found more like support in that camp, but it's like a pretty neutral like topic, and is a pretty it's kind of it's a populist position to take. So like these are easy modes to get out, front run, be like the person, the guy or the gal championing these, and like people remember your name, and you'll have people who will like vote for you because they don't know anything else because of that.
100%. And it also will supercharge your footprint online. It's like a marketing growth tactic for online interactions, because if you do anything that's pro crypto or Bitcoin and you take to social media like Twitter, you're going to have like tens of thousands of people just interacting with your posts, because Bitcoiners and crypto people are chronically online, and they're also ravenous.
And haters are
both ways
online too. So
yeah.
We have another comment from 9, which is also, once the federal government starts, there'll be green light for states. That's true, and we will get into that, which is this what chicken or the egg, state or the state? Let's get to the National Strategic Bitcoin Reserve.
So that's the note that we leave on in the article. And Charlie, I'm going to pull up the article on my screen here. Originally, when I was drafting this, I thought I wanted to do how likely is it that, the federal government establishes a Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, or what would be the pathways to that. Turned out like there honestly wasn't enough meat on that bone. The Bitcoin Policy Institute has done a lot of good work here. Y'all can go check out some of their research. They've kind of outlined in much more depth than I did here the avenues that the federal government could take even without legislative action, which we'll get into here. But per the keynote at Bitcoin 2024, what Trump actually promised, and this is really the easiest thing that he could do in the path to least resistance for establishing something like this, is he said that he just wasn't going to sell any of the Bitcoin that the federal government had seized from illicit marketplaces like the Silk Road or other asset seizures. And the way that he can do that is by issuing an executive order. Two things with that. That is perhaps the path of least resistance. Easy, snap his fingers, write the executive order, it's done. But that can be very easily unwound, right? The next administration could come in and just do away with that executive order. This is the problem with executive orders in general. They were really never intended for substantive policy. It was kind of like we need a quick fix for this thing, or we need the ability to address this immediately. And it was originally kind of like an emergency provision. But as with anything with the federal government, successive presidencies and administrations have been using executive orders to get policy done that they can't get through Congress. And they're not durable because the next administration could just roll them back. So that's the easiest way for him to go about it. And the most likely, because he literally said it during the conference. Let's see if he actually keeps his promise. The other way that he could do it, according to the Bitcoin Policy Institute, is he could mandate a rebalancing of the Exchange Stabilization Fund. Now, this was a Depression-era fund the government established to basically manipulate Forex markets for the dollar's benefit. And using this fund, Trump, through his treasury, I believe, could basically sell USD for Bitcoin. I think the Exchange Stabilization Fund also holds gold. So in theory, they could purchase Bitcoin with this. I think, though, this is one of those things where it's probably subject to heated debate. I think a lot of policy wonks and lawyers would say, well, actually this and actually that. But the Bitcoin Policy Institute on their website lays out the case for it. But the surest way, and this is the last note on this, Charlie, and I know you're chomping at the bit to get in here, so apologies.
No, go ahead. You're the best at this.
Apologies for the rant. The surest way for a Bitcoin strategic reserve in the U.S., though, is through Congress, right? So Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming introduced what is called the Bitcoin Act. That's an acronym. I don't remember the full name of the act.
Bitcoin is July. Totally cool, on God, something.
So yeah, the On God Bitcoin Act that she introduced last July does really two key things. Number one, and I think this is more important than the reserve, is it enshrines self-custody rights for citizens, which if you gave me the choice between two of these, give me that one. Like, I will take that every day of the week. But what it also does is it gives a mandate to the Treasury and the Federal Reserve to acquire up to 1 million BTC over multi-year time frame, which is like 5% of Bitcoin's
5% of the total supply. And if we actually consider like liquid supply and we take like Bitcoin that's been lost, it's Satoshis and other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We're looking
more like
at
7 or 8.
Yeah, that's looking at 10%. Heck, I mean, yeah.
And so this is a bill that I think, quite frankly, probably will not pass for a number of reasons. This is my opinion, but I don't think most politicians are going to look at a bill that says you have to buy up to 1 million of this highly volatile asset. I don't think that's going to really work for most of the politicians. Number two, like, Bitcoin is still a very minor policy plank for a lot of these people. Like, Trump converted easy votes and capitalized on an easy win by coming to Bitcoin 2024 and making promises. But like, let's just ramble. Let's just list off all the problems that also got him in the office, right? Immigration, inflation, national security, like 2 wars that are going on around the world with 2 of our allies that see no signs of stopping anytime soon. There are so many other things that Americans care about and that politicians would rather latch onto. Like, I think this Bitcoin thing is honestly at the bottom of the list for a lot of them.
Bitcoin only really got people out to vote for Trump. It didn't really convert anything. I don't know if it moved the needle except to campaign donations. That was a considerable one. So Trump speaks money. If he speaks any language, it's money, and it's not cool to be in a war, funding a war, over in Israel, Palestine. It's not cool to be not making money. Trump likes to make money, and he likes to get donations from the largest single issue PAC and one of the largest, most politically active, like new wealthy donor bases of all time in human history. So that's the crypto industry, and he likes that. He speaks money. I mean, look at that. But like even the past week, man changed his tune, if he ever even had a tune, on like Bitcoin Reserve. He mentioned Solana and XRP this past week. Which, shout out my Solana smooth brains, but XRP, man, if you want to trigger anybody in the industry,
honestly, anyone. XRP is the one thing that really unites all of the different tribes in crypto, because it is the most just brazen, suit scam. Like, the suits are coming in with their revolutionary blockchain thing, and it's just like a perpetual affinity scam that every cycle it seems like people just keep coming back to, and somehow it's still relevant. And
XRP as the third largest crypto asset right now makes me question a lot of my fundamental assumptions of cyclicality for these assets. And it actually kind of, I'm not looking forward to having to answer all the questions from normies about XRP. I'd be like, ask me anything else. Like I'll talk about anything else. Please just don't talk to me about XRP. You know, I'll convert to Mormonism. I'll convert to whatever other weird religion you want. Like, just don't talk about XRP to me. I can't psychologically take it. Anyway, but I think that about wraps up this episode. Except I think I just saw a tweet that there's another strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Oh shit! Really?
Oh my gosh! Yeah, it's actually the state of